Yo, what is going on, everybody? This is the Midweek Report. We are here on July 8th, 2020. Wanted to, go through a few things, in the sport of boxing, and kind of like talk about, what's been going down within the sport. A couple of topics that we've, kind of went through or are going through in this particular sport, and kind of like touching on specifically a couple of things that have gone down or happened within the sport of boxing, man. And there's like a couple of topics that stand out that I'll be touching on in this particular one, because we have like seems like we've been having a little bit of an issue in reference to a couple of things that are happening or going down. You know what I mean? So with that being said, wanted to like kind of like get into it because we're having like one topic or two that stood out this morning. One thing was something that a fellow reporter pointed out to me. Someone brought up this topic in reference to a fighter that I am, very familiar with, a world champion that I'm familiar with. That is Gary Russell Jr., the WBC featherweight champion of the world. And this particular, YouTuber, I would say, not a reporter, but a YouTuber, so to speak, was saying something in reference to Gary Russell Jr. and him being held back in a sense. And that is something that, people have kind of like talked about in reference to the WBC featherweight champion. How, fans or columnists or anything like that talk about, Gary Russell Jr. only fights once a year. Oh, he only does this because he's, kind of like hard to deal with or anything like that. But in this particular instance, this YouTuber said that the reason why Gary Russell Jr. hadn't really been fighting, had been held back, is because of a thing between him and Al Heyman. Of course, Al Heyman, manager, advisor, whatever it is, so to speak. And, with that being said, that was like an issue for me in particular, because you had the thing with Gary Russell Jr. being a guest on the podcast, the Boxing Source radio show podcast, as of April of this year. And in the podcast, or the conversation that we've had with Gary Russell Jr., he did bring up specifically that he is a free agent. What that means is that he can work with anybody in the sport of boxing. Okay, that includes, the Al Heymans, or, whoever, works with Al Heyman in reference to promoters, or, like a Lou DiBella or a Tom Brown, or even with a Top Rank, or with Matchroom Boxing or anything like that, and that's the thing that he pointed out in April. This is after, he had his world title defense in Allentown, Pennsylvania in February against Toussaint Niambayar. Okay. And he made it very clear that he is a free agent. So, no, he's not signed to Al Haymon. He clearly specified that he's not signed to Al Haymon. So, in reference to this particular YouTuber that put this video up, they need to explain where in the world did they get that specific, thing from, as far as like Al Haymon is holding Gary Russell Jr. back, or threaten to have freeze Gary Russell Jr. out, because Gary Russell Jr. himself stated as of April that he is a free agent. That means you could see him work or fight against anybody within the featherweight division, super featherweight division, or at lightweight, as he was talking about being in the lightweight division, moving up to the lightweight division. That's right, skipping super featherweight and moving up to the lightweight to challenge those people over in the lightweight division. I wanted to get one person on here to talk about other topics that have been brought up. And particularly this one, because it's kind of like a topic that has, bothered us in the past. So I'm going to bring up the president of the Deontay Wilder fan club.
We back, baby. We back.
And the host of the Rumor Report, Mr. Matthew Brown. What's going on?
Can we get a bomb squad for the congregation, JR? Yo, I ain't never get a bomb squad out of you in years. It's been years. I still ain't get one bomb squad.
Not even one time, yo. Oh, not even one time, man. Not even one time. Man. But he's going to be a topic on this conversation, man.
Oh, no.
Because there's something that was really questionable going on, man. And I'm like, why in the world did this come up? But first off, it's kind of wanted to go into the whole thing about journalism and how it's kind of been fairly questionable, whether it's, publications or YouTubers or whatever. And, I was just bringing up this topic in reference to a YouTuber talking about Gary Russell Jr. And I'm like, he says, like, a source told me that the reason why Gary Russell Jr. is not fighting these guys is because Al Haymon is just freezing them out or anything like that. And I'm like, what?
Oh, my God.
So when, our guy from YSM Sports Media pointed that out to me this morning, I was like, okay, let me go ahead and go into the archives of the Boxing Source radio show.
Yep.
And point out where he asked a question to Gary Russell Jr. And Gary Russell said that, I'm not like, most of these other fighters because I'm not tied down by any promoter, manager, or anything like that. I'm a free agent.
Exactly.
And what did you follow up with? He said, not even Al Haymon. And he said, nope, Al Haymon. We have a good working relationship, but
exactly.
I am not signed to Al Haymon. He clearly stated that.
It sounds very similar to Mikey Garcia's situation with Al Haymon. They have a good working relationship, but it's really nothing on paper anymore.
Right. Nothing, that's like a, long-term type of deal or whatnot, where, Gary Russell Jr. or Mikey Garcia is saying like, hey, I'm there with Al Haymon, but, it, kind of goes into, the thing as far as like how Haymon works with, fighters. But the thing with this YouTuber in particular, I was told a little brief history about this YouTuber, and apparently was some member of the LDBC or whatever it
Oh
is,
God.
and then ended up like breaking away from the LDBC, and so now he's like anti Al Heyman or something like that.
Yeah, that's how it always happens. You hate to see it. You hate to
Um,
see it.
but in that particular instance, I was like, we like me and YSM and I, we just had to go ahead and debunk that right off the rip.
Yeah, but why does everybody blame Al Heyman for all the ills of the world?
There's only one person that I would think that would blame Al Heyman for all the ills of the world, and that person's name is Baines Marderosian. But other than that,
Hey, you remember he had some shit to say about Heyman, but then after he got that Don King contract to fight Triple G, he wanted to come back.
oh man, I don't even know how he got that deal work to fight Triple G, man.
Yep.
That was crazy, man. That was crazy. You know what I
He
mean?
said he still ain't get paid.
No, it's Don King, man.
Dumbass.
Only in America.
Fucking dumbass. That's what he got.
Yo. Yeah, man. I mean, man, I don't understand that. I kind of like, says since that, people are trying to, come up with these controversies and things like that when it comes to, fighters and promoters. But
Yep.
it kind of goes into, a conversation that we've had over the past few weeks in reference to columnists in particular who come up with stories in favor of a promotional company. But this is not practice that's not new. We've seen it in the past when it comes to favors towards a top ranked promotion. Whether it's a favorites towards matchroom boxing or Golden Boy or anything like that. So I mean, the practice stage has been in for years, I would say. But trying to be like impartial as far as like columnists are concerned in the sport of boxing is fairly difficult for some of these journalists.
Yeah.
It's like
I remember Mike Coppinger
mm-hmm.
was just a newsbreaker, a rumor breaker. Now he's a mouthpiece for Eddie Hearn.
So he was the boxing's equivalent to Wojciechowski.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why would you not want that lane, you idiot? It's a stupid idiot. Why would you not want that lane?
He could have been like Wojciechowski, man, but I guess and it almost seems like Steve Kim is almost like that right now.
Fuck that guy.
Being on ESPN.
Fuck that guy.
But that's not much of a surprise on ESPN because the guy that he replaced, I know he's your man's, but
that's my guy, man.
The guy that he replaced kind of was doing a little bit of that too,
You think so?
Yeah, man. Because sometimes
I've always found Dan to be pretty fair, except for one instance where I felt like Dan Raphael and Top Rank basically conspired to ruin the career of El Chacal Guillermo Rigondeaux.
Rigondeaux. Yes, there is that. I kind of thought that he was also on the side of top rank when it came to boasting Manny Pacquiao and downplaying Floyd Mayweather as well.
I could see that.
I think.
Although he always maintained that he thought Mayweather would win when they do fight.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that, but I do think that the reporting on the saga that was the negotiations between Mayweather and Pacquiao, I've always thought that everyone was a bit one-sided with that in favor of Manny Pacquiao, even though there were many, many things, many red flags that came up from Manny Pacquiao's side, and a lot of reasons why we know the fight didn't get done. You know, I don't think it's any coincidence that as soon as Les Moonves takes over the negotiations and they basically say, Bob Arum, hey, Bob, sit your old ass down. We're going to get this fight done. I don't think it's any coincidence that the fight got done when that happened.
Yeah, because, he basically scratched out all of the, promoter things and stuff like that and said for them to, kind of go, face to face and, work this thing, work this thing out, you know what I mean? And that was, kind of how that fight, was able to take place or, was able to, happen. You know what I mean? So, there's basically that. But, moving into other topics in reference to this thing with so-called journalism and whatnot, I did bring up this issue about this particular YouTuber talking about Gary Russell Jr.
Who is the YouTuber anyway?
This is Goodfellas Sports. Okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my.
That's why I was like, I didn't really, follow the person. So like, why Sam had to tell me, what he was and what he is now. So you had
he's a coon. He's a coon. He's a coon. I've seen it.
Hey, wait! Before you say that, I was going to add something else. Now, before he put that video up in reference to Gary Russell Jr. and Al Heyman, he put up a video about Deontay Wilder.
Oh God.
And that was titled basically Deontay Wilder fires Mark Breland for helping Team Tyson Fury get victory in the rematch.
Yo, why are they doing this to Wilder, man? Like, I honestly, I feel like Wilder is being set up to look like a fucking fool. Like, why is everybody talking about this man in a pandemic when we're at least 5 months away from him getting back in the ring? Why are we talking about Wilder right now?
5 months. Five months.
Come on, man.
Now, the thing about it is, though, and I know, you among a few others have stated that I am a Deontay Wilder hater.
You are?
And I am just a
oh my God.
critic.
Cut the crap.
But when it comes to topics within the sport, controversy sells, and when the whole thing with this glove gate or whatever it is, the results of the fight that happened on February 22nd, 2020, and immediately after that, the topic of Wilder, saying that he wants to run it back, The video that he did, pretty much after the fight.
Say your king,
you know,
is gonna return.
your king is here. Do not worry. Bomb Squad Nation. Your king is here. But like anything that deals with Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder is going to get a lot of interest from boxing fans.
Yep.
So you will have something like that, regardless of what the topic is. But to kind of like go out there and say that Deontay Wilder fired Mark Breland, that is like overstepping the boundary, particularly when if anything happened between Deontay Wilder and Mark Breland, we would hear about it. Particularly, we wouldn't hear about it from no good fellow sports. We wouldn't hear about it from that.
Yeah, exactly.
From the most inside people within the sport of boxing, whether they're part of the team or they're kind of like the first within the sport of boxing as far as like breaking stories out. So if anything, they would know first, or someone like me who would kind of know a person that deals with a Mark Breland or knows someone who's been around Deontay Wilder's camp, I would pretty much know about it. The president of the Deontay Wilder fan club would know about it and would have it on the rumor report. So if they didn't see anything about that or anything close to that, so why would somebody try to?
What was this guy's reasoning for saying that Wilder fired him again?
Let's go through the title once again. Deontay Wilder fires Mark Breland for helping Team Tyson Fury get the victory in the rematch.
Now, all right. Let's just break this down logically. How did Mark Breland help Team Tyson Fury get the victory?
I guess because they want to still try to tie in or put the blame on Mark Breland for throwing in the towel, stopping that fight in February 22nd.
Okay. So this is not Glovegate related?
No, not necessarily.
It is what it is, man. Like this guy, first of all, this good fella guy is a fucking coon. Okay, I just wanted to put that out there again, just in case your audience didn't hear me the first time. He's a fucking coon. But he doesn't know. Okay, like I understand that journalists are not supposed to give up their sources, but you're at least supposed to come with some real facts, not just some, like conjecture and innuendos and stuff like that. Like if you really, and maybe they don't want to be taken seriously. So let me preface it by saying that. But to me, if you want to be taken seriously as a journalist, not just a boxing journalist, a journalist in general, you gotta come with the facts. And first of all, if you see a lot of the stuff that this guy posts, I know you probably don't follow him on Twitter. I don't follow him either, but he pops up on my timeline every now and again because there's like a certain racist and coon section of boxing Twitter where they all like the same things, retweet the same things, blah 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 blah. Like if you were to see the kind of stuff that he posts, you can't take this guy seriously. You just can't.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at this, the list of videos that he has on here, and has something in reference to Justin Bieber. That's all I need to. That's all I need to see. Like, come on, man.
People do anything for clicks, man.
Man, but I couldn't, like, I can't even, go into that type of, stuff. But I know what you were saying in reference to, journalists and sources. But, for me, I'm like, nah, man, because it's like, when you know something, you ain't gonna say, "Yo, I heard from a friend that
Yeah.
you doing this over in 32nd and 15th." Nah, like me, I'm like, "Yo, I hit up this particular person, and he who deals directly with a Deontay Wilder or Gary Russell Jr. himself. This is what he said. That's my source. So if you're gonna say, "Hey, a source told me," and if it sounds outrageous, I'm gonna call you out on it, and I'm gonna say you gotta provide that source. Don't you know? Don't say something that's way off when I can know somebody that could tell me directly that what you're talking about is completely wrong. So
Now,
with the thing
let me ask you a question.
Junior, I had to clear that up ASAP.
As a boxing journalist,
Mm-hmm.
how do you decide on what type of content and rumors you're going to put out there in the public atmosphere?
As far as content, like I don't like for me, if it's something where there, is a report about a fight possibly happening,
Mm-hmm.
depending on, if I can access that person or not, either I'll just say, okay, this is something that's up in the air and
Mm-hmm.
have my thoughts on it, or like I said, I'll try to contact them directly and say, hey, there's something like saying that you might be involved in a particular fight with this particular person. And they may
Mm-hmm.
say like, hey, we might have a few things working, happening or working, whatnot. And, that's that. That's why, like, for example, the last, thing I had was, with you know, Demetrius Salita. And Demetrius Salita, kind of like says that, he's working on this fight with this person or this fight with that person, or, Clarissa Shields is going to be,
Mm-hmm.
the fight Marie Becerra. So I'm like, why would I try to go to somebody that might be, a third tier person when I could,
Mm-hmm.
access the person themselves? I mean, we're
Mm-hmm.
in the social media age where it's very easy, it's easier than ever to contact people of that level. So
Yeah.
it's like, well, yeah, source told me this and source told me that. That's kind of like the old way of reporting to me, because you didn't necessarily have that access to reach the boxers or to reach the promoters or to reach the managers and so forth. Now people have that opportunity, so it's like when something goes down, it's like, huh? Let me call somebody up. Let me call
Yeah.
Nate up. Let me call, Gary Russell up. Let me call, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of like, it's kind of hit or miss as far as like how much, like if a story goes out, if I know who's in that particular story, then I'll, put in the effort to contact them and say, hey, this is going on. Is there anything to this? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Now, have you ever put out maybe rumors that you couldn't independently verify?
Probably, but like for me, as far as like reporting, I don't really do like especially when it comes to like posting an article or something like that.
Yeah.
Usually, all I do is like mainly do something off of what is sent to me from a boxing promotional company, or
Okay.
something where they have like an interview from of a boxer, or something that the boxer was talking about that's a press release. So I just copy off a press release or something like that. Otherwise, if it's an announcement for a fight, I just put in what they announced for that particular fight. But as far as like anything for like rumors are concerned, and I don't, I try not to go into that juicy gossip type of talk.
Oh, that's the kind of talk I live for, man.
I know. I mean, that's a rumor report. That's a rumor report, man. But
Hey,
hey,
that's my lay. Listen, I don't call it the fact report. I call it the fucking rumor report. I tell people that all the time. Oh, how you know? I don't know. I just heard it, so I'm passing
just heard it, man.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. Where'd you get it from? I'm not telling you. I remember one time I had this real juicy rumor, and it was true. And I knew it to be true because I literally overheard. Cause I be eavesdropping. I'm always ear hustling. I overheard Keith Connolly and Eddie Hearn talking about it. So I was like, oh, let me just put this out there. People are like, oh, you're lying. I didn't want to say, hey, listen, I actually heard it with my own ears. I was standing right there, ear hustling, because Eddie Hearn can't whisper. He really can't, man.
No, he can't.
He cannot whisper.
Nope.
So I'm like, yeah, I kind of heard. I heard it directly. But, you know, it is what it is. For me, I just have fun with the rumors. I always say this is just a rumor. You know, if something I know to be true, I just do a straight news story. No type of editorial, no nothing like that. It's just a straight news story. This is what's happening. So and so and so. I heard it from a source. You know, Mike Coppinger and his sources. He loves sources. But we all know his source is Eddie Hearn on the WhatsApp. We don't know what that is there. Yeah, I mean, it's just weird.
It like I heard it from the grapevine. No, it ain't. You know, it ain't nothing like that.
Exactly. It's like, oh, sources say that Eddie Hearn had pancakes for breakfast. How the hell did you know that, Mike? How'd you know that, Mike?
Good job reporting that, Mike.
But you know what really kills me though?
Me that Eddie Hearn walked across the street to go get a newspaper.
What kills me about these guys, like the Mike Coppingers, the Steve Kims, the Chris Mannixes, guys like that, they actually get aggravated and frustrated with people for calling them out, and rightfully so. I'm like, yo, you're bullshitting right now. Like,
yeah, like Chris Mannix still hasn't explained the whole thing with Adrian Broner and
and you know what? And guess what? There's going to be no type of repercussions for it because
zero.
Boxing isn't one centrally governed sport. You think he could have pulled that bullshit if it was about an NBA player? No.
No.
Would have been on the phone with Yahoo Sports. Yeah. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? LeBron punched Anthony Davis, and it was an explosive punch, and the cops had to be called. Like, what?
You wouldn't be able to, you know, have something like that in the NBA, NFL, or anything like that. You know, because they're kind of like umbrella organizations in that, you know, they're a corporation with other corporations below it.
Yeah, so, and they're all partners. They're all partners. Like, to me, the purpose of media is to report news, one, actual news, and then it's to basically give the fans reasons to tune into the sport. But for boxing, for some reason, the boxing media is so negative, they want to tell you all the reasons not to tune in.
What was it? Who was it that said something about MMA?
Coppinger.
Wasn't Coppinger that said the thing about the fighter that said that, you know, he would be ready in, like, you know, 2 days or 3 days?
Oh, you talking about Masvidal? No, that was Steve Kim.
Steve Kim. Steve Kim made that post a few days ago about Masvidal, and he's talking about, boxers need 8 weeks to get ready and this, but look at Masvidal. He said he's ready in like 2 days. I'm like, what? You're a boxing reporter. You don't say stuff like that.
But you know what kills me about that?
Yeah.
What he's saying is not even accurate, because we have many fighters who take fights on short notice and 1 week notice, but they're called journeymen. Okay,
Uh,
they're the
you had an
fill-in
argument with
fighters.
one of them the other day.
Exactly, they're the fill-in fighters who they're so broke that they're just looking to take anything so they can get a little bit of money to feed their family. So
Yep.
maybe what these boxing writers should be examining is, why is it you have a sport where a guy needs to take a fight on 1 week's notice, and he has to cut 22 pounds in 1 week, which is very dangerous, by the way. He has to cut 22 pounds in 1 week. That's
Mhm.
not healthy. That's not safe.
Yeah.
What if Jorge Masvidal, God forbid, dies on Saturday? You know, what are we still gonna say? Bravo, UFC! You really showed boxing. You own the liberals. What are we talking about here?
Well, I mean, combat sports is fairly, reactive in a sense, in that they don't really take the lead as far as like safety precautions or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that. They're more of like reactive when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Of course, we see it in boxing, where man, it was like what last year, whatever it was, you had four deaths in the ring,
Yeah.
or most of what happened in the ring. So it's it's something that where you have like these reporters kind of like on one side, try to praise someone for getting ready in 2 or 3 days notice, and another
Mm-hmm.
sport, but don't say anything about those that do get ready in 2 or 3 days, 3 days notice, when that happens all the time in boxing. It happens all the
Yeah.
time in boxing,
Yeah. But
you
they're all
know?
journeymen. You're not gonna have no top fighter doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because top fighters are compensated fairly, and in boxing, the top fighters are actually the best guys in the sport. You don't get the best fighting the best in UFC. And it pisses me
Mm-hmm.
off when you have these boxing writers claim, well, the UFC, the best fight the best. No, the
No, they don't.
UFC is the equivalent of PBC. It's the equivalent of Top Rank. It's the equivalent of Matchroom. It's the equivalent of Golden Boy. It's
Mm-hmm.
one promotional entity. You don't see UFC cross promoting with Bellator or Pride
Pride,
or something
like
like,
a
you don't
K1 or
see
something, you
that.
know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't see that. So how can you say that UFC is the best fight in the best? Do you think this small ass company, because UFC is not a large company, do you think this small ass company with maybe at best 15 to 20 fighters in a given division, you think these 15 to 20 guys are the best out of millions in the world doing the sport? It's impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible. Even leagues like the NBA, who are truly global leagues, where the best of another country comes to play in the NBA, even them, you probably
Yep.
got somebody at a local playground where you're at that's probably better than an NBA player.
Why
It's
their brother know
impossible.
better than Jordan who ain't get that break?
Exactly. Exactly. So it's like, don't tell me UFC is the best fight in the best. What it is it's the best UFC has to offer, fighting the best UFC has to offer, and they have better promotion and they have a better media following. The media for UFC bigs up every single event like it's the greatest thing ever. Oh my God, I'm so
Mhm.
excited. Jorge Masvidal with his 13 losses. Who cares? A loss doesn't mean anything. But what happens if you're Andrew Cancio and you lose your title unexpectedly? Golden Boy drops you.
Drops you.
What happens if you're Jordanis Ugas or Andy Ruiz and you lose unexpectedly? Top Rank drops you. Okay? So they want to say that boxing, everyone's worried about it should be more like UFC where the loss doesn't matter. But yet these promotional companies drop up and coming fighters that lose early. These
Mm-hmm.
media members, they can't wait to rag. Oh, what's their favorite line? Oh, he's exposed. He's gonna get exposed. They can't wait for Ryan Garcia to lose. Okay, once Ryan Garcia loses, they're gonna call him all types of bums, or he's exposed.
Overrated.
We told you they can't wait. They can't wait. But if this was UFC, they would not be like that. Why? Because Dana won't give them access. He won't give them no access. You had MMA writers, having to sign a disclosure, a COVID disclosure. Like, you can't say shit about COVID testing, even if you test positive, or give it to your family. You can't say shit. But they eat that. Why? Because Dana won't let them cover it. So maybe the top ranks, the PBCs, the matchrooms, maybe they should start doing that to writers. You can't come cover the event. Kevin Iole, who when Anthony Joshua got beat by Andy Ruiz, you're cursing out Al Haymon. Oh, Al Haymon ruined boxing. Now we can't get anything nice. Blah, blah. Yo, calm the fuck down. People lose. I thought losses don't matter. As long as the best fight the best. like I don't understand the boxing writer mentality at all.
I mean, boxing writer, boxing, journalist or whatever it is. I mean, you have a Kevin Iole that kind of like, like I said, like sits on, what happened, what happened on June 1st at Madison Square Garden, but on the, flip side, you had, YSM, interview me after that fight. And I'm like, yo, you see like anything happens in heavyweight boxing. I mean, who knows, what could have happened if, Joshua won. I mean, if Joshua won, it would have been like, okay, Joshua won. He moves on. He probably has another mandatory defense or whatever it is. With, Andy Ruiz winning, it's like, oh, something happened in the heavyweight division. This is like the biggest, upset in the heavyweight division in years. So that, like, something like that should have boosted.
Should be the storyline.
Yeah, that should be the storyline. That should have boosted, the sport of boxing and covering the sport of boxing, particularly in the heavyweight division that's supposed to be, that has been for years the glamour division up until the Klitschko's. But, now, okay, you've had, Anthony Joshua up there, you had Deontay Wilder up there, you've had these guys being undefeated, knocking guys out, but then you have an upset, and that should be the story. But you're like, oh, now the fight between Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder is ruined. He won't have undefeated fight.
Yeah. Like, who cares? Maybe Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder aren't the two best heavyweights. And that's okay. Whoever is the best will be left standing to do battle.
Right.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, who cares? Like, and then you got guys like Mike Coppinger, who refused to go to the Tank Davis fight, the sold-out Tank Davis fight. And what he said, I don't cover mismatches.
Not just Mike Coppinger. Wasn't Dan Rayfield too?
They all went to
Dallas.
Yeah. Jose Ramirez, Maurice Hook. Oh, we don't cover mismatches. We don't cover mismatches. But Mike Coppinger is ready to give Eddie Hearn a blowjob for a YouTube fight. Like, get the fuck out of here. These guys covered a YouTube fight more seriously than they covered a sold-out Tank Davis event in a not historically big boxing town. Come on now. That's big for boxing. When you have the towns that are not usually fight towns showing up and showing out for one of the young fighters in the game, that's a big story.
The thing in Atlanta, that was, and the thing about that particular fight or that particular fight card was that the crowd was organic. It was completely organic. Like, you didn't have anything, coming over from the LSU Oklahoma game or whatever it was. or anything like that. Like everybody else was there just for the football game. The people there for the boxing were there for the boxing. So you mean to tell me that you didn't want to boost up that Gervonta Tank Davis versus Yuri Orkis Gamboa had a sold out crowd over in Atlanta, Phyllis Arena, whatever it is? Like, come on, man.
Yep. And I just don't understand why the boxing media is this way, because you don't cover mismatch, but yet you're in Madison Square Garden to cover Triple G versus Steve Rolls.
Steve Rolls, man.
Like, my man. So do you cover mismatches or not?
It goes into the thing that you were talking about with the NBA and NFL, but it's like worse in a sense, because, and it goes to like fans as well, because it seems like with the sport of boxing, instead of like being fans of the sport in general, or I mean, even worse, like even if you're just a fan of a specific fighter, that's one thing. But when you're a fan of a promotional company, that's completely different. It's like, oh, I'm Team PBC, or I'm Team Matchroom, or I'm Team Top Rank, or I'm Team Golden.
But you can't blame blame the fan for that though, JR. You can't blame the fan for that. Because you know what? I had to become Team PBC. Why? Because when PBC first came out, the only stories you heard was how Al Heyman is crooked. Al Heyman stealing these people money. Why are you putting boxing on regular TV, on national TV? Why are you putting boxing on Fox? Why are you putting boxing on CBS? Why are you putting boxing on NBC? Oh, this is going to kill the sport. Why are you paying all these fighters all this money? PBC is going out of business. Oh, PBC is going out. So you know what? The media, the biased media, the racist media, because a lot of it is race related. Because
that's the thing that's the thing I was going to point out.
So a lot of these guys, they polarized people into becoming PBC fans, because we actually like these matchups. We like seeing Keith Thurman versus Sean Porter on CBS. We kind of like that. So you're polarizing us to become PBC fans.
Well, my reasoning for kind of like being a PBC fan initially there is because most of the guys from PBC came off of Golden Boy Promotions. And Golden Boy Promotions at that particular time really didn't kind of treat many of those people that are now in PBC well. And it still happens right now with Golden Boy Promotions. Yeah, I'm not gonna, sugarcoat that. That's what pretty much happens in Golden Boy Promotions. So that's why, a couple weeks ago, you had Jamel Charlo pretty much
he went in.
Because he's like, man, I was being paid $100,000 for these fights, going up against like a Demetrius Hopkins or this guy or that guy. I'm trying to do this. I'm getting my thing. I'm doing my thing. I'm trying to get my brother on, and y'all can't even get my brother on. I'm like,
exactly. And he's like, meanwhile, Diego De La Hoya is in every Golden Boy main event, and he ain't shit.
Diego freaking.
Come on, man. Come on. Get out of here with that.
Yeah, but I mean, but man, I've never really been much of a fan of Golden Boy Promotions. So anytime I had the opportunity to shit on Golden Boy Promotions, I'll do it. I'm not caring about making it to a freaking Golden Boy Promotions event. I don't care, man. But that's the thing about journalism or covering the sport of boxing, is that like, if something happens within a promotional company, we try to like call it out, because I mean, it happens. And even if it happens, depends on the promotion. We could still, get into the events, but
Yeah,
we got to call it out as we see it. You know what I mean?
absolutely. Like to me, it's borderline criminal that nobody is calling out Eddie Hearn for the Devin Haney and Michael Hunter situations. Okay, Eddie Hearn has dropped
Particularly
the
Michael
ball.
Hunter.
Yeah. Oh, of course. How is it Michael Hunter? All right, I'm not going to call it a robbery because it's overused, but he beat Alexander Povetkin. So why is it Alexander Povetkin gets the shot at the WBC interim title, but Michael Hunter doesn't? That's probably why he left.
Well, I don't think it's just that. I think it's that plus you don't put Michael Hunter in a position to have a fight of any magnitude in the heavyweight division.
Nope.
Like I mean, let's see. I mean, you have like the whole thing that's part of the undercard for that fight card on the 22nd of August. But
Yeah.
you have the White versus Povetkin. You have, of course, Anthony Joshua with his mandatory defense against Kubrat Pulev. But you also have Alexander Usyk, versus Derek Chisora. So you have those fights, but you don't have anything set up for Michael Hunter. You don't have. Let's see. Okay, that thing was in December 7th of last year.
Yeah.
Joseph Parker already had a fight. Okay,
Yep.
you would have had a fight set up with with Gasayev against Forrest. That would have been part of that same card.
Yeah. And Gassiev's gone too, by the way. He left Matchroom also.
Yeah. But you have all of those other fights set up, but you don't have anything set up for Michael Hunter, especially when they kind of like were saying before the fight, the Joshua Ruiz rematch, that Michael Hunter was in sparring with, Andy Ruiz Jr., and he was doing this thing against Andy Ruiz, whether Andy Ruiz was 300 pounds, 500 pounds, whatever, they were still saying that. But you still can't put Michael Hunter in a position to have him still be, in something that could put him in contention to compete for a world title later on down the line. Like, nah.
He had no intention. He had no intention of doing anything with Michael Hunter. Like, why did Andy Ruiz get the shot at Joshua instead of Michael Hunter?
Oh, shoot, what was that thing? Because he was in a fight. When was that? It was in MGM. They had Michael Hunter and they had another heavyweight there, but I forgot what the main event was. But Michael, yeah, that was it. That was June 1st, so that had to be around, what was that? Kind of been like around April or something, because he was talking about being
Kuzman fight, right?
an opponent for Anthony Joshua after his win. He was talking about that, but they didn't have much of anything for that. They didn't even put him could have been a rematch between him and Alexander Usyk in the heavyweight division. They didn't even put that.
We would have loved that. We would have loved that.
But
they had Michael Hunter fight May 25th, the week before Joshua versus Ruiz.
Okay. Yeah,
and before that, he fought November. So he could have been the guy to fight Anthony Joshua. Why did that fight go to Andy Ruiz? Makes no sense.
No, I don't know, man. I don't know. I had to look at because remember they had the whole thing with Jarrell Miller, and then they didn't even consider Michael Hunter.
No,
like he wasn't even considered. It was, the thing with Jarrell Miller, and after the Jarrell Miller thing, it was the thing with Luis Ortiz, and after Luis Ortiz, it's Andy Ruiz Jr. So they ain't even like bring him up in the conversation, So yeah, I don't know, man. You're gonna see him in PBC, man. You don't see him in
Maybe,
PBC.
or maybe you're gonna see him in Top Rank because, his daddy used to fight for Top
Yeah,
Rank,
yeah. He did.
and
I
he
think
he
yeah, he
used to
posted
fight for
something
Top Rank
about that.
too. Now that I think about it, wasn't he with Bob when he had the Usyk fight?
I thought he was.
Yeah,
I thought he was. But yeah, that's something there with Michael Hunter, man. It's just crazy. I mean that's the sport, man. Like everybody, like I brought the thing up in reference to like vein smart erosion. It's not like all of these promotional companies have like rosy relationships with every boxer that they deal with.
yeah,
You're gonna
yeah.
have guys that are gonna be shafted, whether it's PBC, Top Rank, Matchroom, or anybody. You know what I mean? So in this particular case with Michael Hunter, I mean that is what that is.
And
But
by the way, after Hunter had lost to Usyk, Top Rank dropped him. By the way, I just wanted to put that out there.
so I don't see him. Yeah, I don't see
Losses don't
him
matter though.
being with Top
Losses
Rank.
don't matter. He was gone for a year after the fight with Usyk, and then came
Yeah,
back on some like card against a guy that was 16-40 in Biloxi, Mississippi. So
dang, Biloxi, Mississippi, like that state athletic
yeah,
commission actually
yeah,
approved that fight. Oh
yeah,
my God.
yeah. So it
Woo.
is what it is, man. But what are your thoughts on what's going on with Devin Haney?
Devin Haney, man, I think he's going to end up for one way or another. I think he's going to end up being his own or holding his own promotional company somehow, some way. They were talking about trying to have those fights in the lightweight division. Bob Arum is like, oh, you were foolish to go over to Eddie Hearn. You could have signed with Top Rank, but you didn't want to do it. You wanted to go with this guy Eddie Hearn. I don't understand it. So he went with Eddie Hearn, and he was, kind of like put in a position to try to be a contender for a world title,
Mm-hmm.
really quickly. He kind of was able to do that, but a couple of things with that. One, Eddie Hearn failed in the instance with trying to make the fight between Devin Haney and Luke Campbell.
He got outmaneuvered. Let's call it what it is. He got
Well,
outmaneuvered by Bob Arum.
Well, Bob Arum has, I have the power. I can talk to Mauricio Suleiman, and all I have to do is say, look, I have this guy Lomachenko, and he wants to have the WBC lightweight championship. So what you can do for me is you could put him in there against Luke Campbell. You don't have to worry about that Devin Haney guy. He doesn't sell tickets. He doesn't put anybody in a state. So we can have
it's crazy.
and it'll be a great fight. You're gonna have it sold out, and we're gonna make lots of money. It was
Like,
pretty much.
How do you, as Eddie Hearn, allow your fighter to get passed over for his vacant title shot? Because it was supposed to be Haney versus Luke Campbell for the vacant belt. How do you get him passed over for the vacant title shot, and then you let Lomachenko vacate the title immediately after, thus avoiding your guy? And now people are ridiculing him, calling him an email champion.
Email champion.
Like, come on.
I'm like an email champ. I'm like, and the thing is like, for me, actually, Haney should have called him out on that, particularly, when they had that whole thing on Instagram where, Eddie Hearn was interviewing like Katie Taylor and Devin Haney and Maurice Hooker and all of them. I'm like, you were there in a position to try to fight for a world title, and you didn't necessarily get it. Okay, so that at least in that particular instance, when it comes to Luke Campbell, so you don't have that fight with Luke Campbell. You have a fight with Zuru Abdullayev in the Madison Square Garden. Okay,
And waxed him, completely waxed him.
But here's the thing, though. In the fight before that, you fight. What was it? Antonio Moran over in the MGM National Harbor, right?
Yep.
That particular card, he inserted that fight in because it was supposed to be Alexander Usyk as the main event in that particular card. Usyk couldn't make it, so he put you in as a replacement. Okay, so you have that fight. Next thing over, you go over to the theater at Madison Square Garden. Okay, you're going up against Zaur Abdullayev like nobody knows who he is or anything like that. So it's something to the instance where Haney's gonna watch Zaur Abdullayev. So why would we really be interested in that fight? So
why didn't they have Haney fight Lomachenko and let Campbell fight Abdullayev?
Well, that's another thing, but that goes into the whole thing about Lomachenko versus Campbell. Yeah. But in this particular instance, you have Haney Abdullayev as the main event in the theater at Madison Square Garden. If they didn't have that Hardy Serrano fight as the co-feature bout, how many people do you think would have attended that particular fight card?
Oh my God!
So you were working with, Lou DiBella over there in New York to get that fight and to solidify that particular fight, so that would be the co-feature bout.
Yep.
Oh, wait a minute! Wasn't Michael Hunter in that particular fight card as well?
I think he fought Sergey Kuzmin on that card, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. All right, now, so the thing with Lomachenko and Campbell, right? Hearn allowed that fight to happen because he knew that a Lomachenko-Campbell fight would make more money than a Lomachenko-Haney fight. So he just said, you know what? Oh, the WBC, they didn't allow Haney versus Campbell, blah, blah, blah. But I get Lomachenko versus Campbell, so I get to make more money off that.
Exactly.
So he isn't really sweating that. So, yeah, we were talking, after the fight, and they're saying, oh, Haney is next this and next that, and he's going to be over in the, in Staples Center in November or whatever it is. And, okay, the Lomachenko-Campbell fight happens. Lomachenko wins and everything like that. Haney is the, not the franchise champ, the interim champ. So he's like, okay, I get this shot next. And then, Bob Arum and his guys, the Karma Reddies and all of them, they say, hey, let's make Lomachenko the franchise champion. And they go ahead and they do that. And by doing that, they award the WBC lightweight title to Devin Haney. So it's like, yeah, Devin Haney gets the belt, but he only fought Zaur Abdullayev for it, And the only thing with that is like, there's like instances where, we kind of like, side with Devin Haney because, there was supposed to be a tournament for that vacant WBC title that should have involved TOP. But Bob Arum once again. So, he does go ahead and he has his defense in November, but he's part of an undercard. Like Billy Joe Saunders is part of an undercard to KSI and Logan Paul.
Exactly. Well, there is a tournament for the WBC lightweight title now. The only problem is only Devin Haney don't have an opponent.
Part of it. So let's fast forward. Here we are right now, right? We get these announcements. They're like, the zone is announcing this, the zone is announcing that. You have something in Golden Boy. Oh, we're going to have Jorge Linares versus Javier Fortuna. It's going to be for the WBC Diamond Belt.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, the WBC announces that Luke Campbell is going to fight Brian Garcia, and that could be for the mandatory of the WBC lightweight title. Who is Devin Haney fighting?
But quiet as kept.
Nobody.
Eddie Hearn is attempting to throw Devin Haney under the bus because I don't know if you heard the Mike Coppinger, Lance Pugmire podcast.
Oh, that's another guy.
They're claiming that Haney turned down a Luke Campbell fight and backed away from the fight, and that's why he doesn't have anyone to fight now. Now, we know they're getting all their info from Eddie Hearn. They're not getting it from Haney. They're getting it from Eddie Hearn. So why is Eddie Hearn trying to put it out there in the public atmosphere that Devin Haney is turning down these fights? And now you see Devin Haney tweeting on Twitter talking about, these promoters, they're trying to blackball me.
Blackball me and all of that.
Yeah.
Why do you think I said that Devin Haney is going to end up being his own promoter?
But why didn't his dumb ass just go with Floyd or PBC? Why not? What's wrong with Bill Haney?
I don't know. I have to talk with Bill Haney. Yo, I think he didn't go with Floyd because, if it went with Floyd, Tank Davis was...
Yeah.
You see what happened when he was traded?
Hey, so he should have just went to PBC.
Yeah. Because right now, that's about the only place he could go now.
Yeah.
He certainly can't go to top. He can't go to no top rank. So
yeah,
shoot. I mean, go with PBC and set up that fight. Have that thing with Gary Russell. What's up?
I wonder how long his contract with Eddie is running, because honestly, I don't think
running out.
I don't think Matchroom USA is going to survive. I truly don't, and I'm not saying that just because I don't give a shit about them. I just don't see how they're going to survive because they don't have any marquee people. Like, I like Devin Haney, but a lot of people are not paying to see him fight. I like Demetrius Andrade, but he can't draw flies to shit. So it's like, who does Eddie Hearn have that is going to bring ratings to the zone?
Here's the thing on that. I am not completely certain as to how much he's really spending on the guys here. I know that, they have, budget where they, overpay guys fairly significantly. But as far as like his fighters in general within Matchroom Boxing USA, I really don't think that his budget is that large as far as like paying or having to pay those fighters, within, this particular country. So when you have this fight card that's coming up,
you know what's crazy about that?
Involves, Julio Cesar Martinez and the fight with between Cecilia Braekhus and the Cat Skiller. I don't think that's really gonna put much of a dent in the budget. But overall,
I think the highest paid fighter. Yeah, the highest paid fighter was Mikey Garcia.
Yeah, but I don't know where that he probably got that pulled that money from the overall budget to pay off Mikey Garcia for that fight against Rick DeMarco. I mean Jesse Vargas. So that's up to this point for this year, like that fight card is probably most likely the most money that they spent, off their budget. This year, because after that they didn't have anything. So, right now we just gotta wait until this thing over in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or whatnot, and after that you'll see like what other fights that they're gonna have take place here in the States. If they have Demetrius Andrade out there fighting a Luke Wheeler level person or something like that, who knows? But that's kind of like what they have there. I wanted to like go back into this thing with Deontay Wilder, man. Um, I didn't even know about this until earlier today, and I could have brought it up on the show on Sunday, but apparently, there's this channel called the Boxing Voice, and on Saturday they had a particular fighter by the name of Shannon Briggs on,
Oh my God, here we go.
and looks like Shannon Briggs was trying to, subliminally snitch on some folks, man. And I'm like,
What do you
nah,
say?
man. See, two things, but two things about it. He tried to hint that your boy, as he told Nestor Gibbs, your boy was caught 7 times, but they didn't say nothing about it. And I'm like,
Who was caught 7 times?
when he said your boy to Nestor Gibbs, I'm saying the same thing to you. So who do you think he's talking about?
He can't be talking about Wilder.
That's basically who he's hitting at.
Man, get the fuck out of here.
Look,
Get the fuck out of here.
okay, now I'll just put this out there, okay? Once again, I am not a hater. I'm a constructive critic of Deontay Wilder. Now, two things. Number one, I've stated this on multiple occasions, okay? The two heavyweights that have been tested the most, that have gone through the whole testing protocols in any sense, are Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. So if there was any type of instance where Wilder would be kind of even linked to any type of performance enhancing drug or performance enhancing substance, we would have known about it already.
7 times.
But 7 times? No. Nah.
Come on. 7 times?
So that's number one. Number two, as a fighter that has already been caught in the past, you really can't kind of bring that up when it comes to another fighter.
Yeah.
That's number two. But I'll add one more caveat. Listen, you from Brownsville, man.
Exactly.
And I know that, there's code and things like that or whatever it is, and that we shouldn't really go by this particular code. But the streets have a code. And that code is no snitching. So how are you going to, this is straight up. I know that Briggs has been my boy, whatever it is. I've been a fan of his and whatnot. But y'all, the code. You can't like say, oh, somebody's doing this and that or whatever it is, and just walk and just say, oh, that's what happens. Nah. So I know that he's definitely gonna hear from, Wilder's team or whatnot. If that's what
you know what kills me about Briggs?
But
he's really close with Jerome Miller. To me, he's just trying to deflect from Jerome Miller's situation. That's all it is.
All of them in New York, man. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Yo. It's like
it reminds me of when Dillian White got caught, and then Spencer Fearon tried to say that Oscar Rivas got caught too, and it turned out to be a big ass lie. Like, listen, your guy got caught, he got popped.
What about Dean White?
Take it. Exactly. Just take it. You just gotta take it. You gotta eat that. Your guy got caught.
Oh man, yeah, that's kind of I just don't understand that. I don't know. Maybe that's probably the issue why I haven't really been able to, talk to the guy, in almost or talk to the guy at length in almost 3 months.
Yeah.
But and that's that's just craziness, man. But that's kind of like what I wanted to cover so far. I don't even want to get to the whole thing about Dylan White breaking up with his trainer or whatever it is. I don't know. Maybe that could have people drop a little wager on Alexander Povetkin on August 22nd. But
Mm-hmm.
hey, who knows? But that's what I got. For this particular midweek report. Shout out to Matthew Brown for coming in to join in this conversation. We have action on Top Rank. I know that Matt won't be watching.
Absolutely not.
He won't be watching it. I know that a couple people, especially not this one, since they got a couple guys from Philly on the card.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Keep them weird Philly dudes away from me, like Errol Spence said. Philly dudes are weird, man.
Oh,
Philly
God.
dudes are weird.
No.
Philly dudes are weird, man.
Oh, son. But that does it for this midweek report. Just catch us on Sunday live. We're gonna have a simulcast here on YouTube, so be sure to catch that. I may have somebody on that would kind of be part of a continuation of a discussion that we had on the last podcast. So tune in for that, as we might try to get something straight on the topic that was pretty juicy, in the last podcast. So be on the lookout for that. But until then, I'll catch y'all later. Peace out.
Peace out.